And I appreciate that all of you that have joined us this evening. And it's a difficult situation to try to have these meetings virtually. And we're not sure we know yet when we'll ever have a physical meeting, at least for the next couple of months. But I do appreciate you being with us tonight. I'd like to open the meeting as we have always in the past with the Pledge of Allegiance, if you'll join me for that. So I'm going to just do that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation under God, visible and liberty forever. Thank you. So I was just thinking about this mission and how much it means right now. A healthy and enriched lifestyle for Loudoun County veterans and their family members through community outreach and advocacy for Loudoun County veterans issues. I know the strongest one that we've had going right now, and Tom Grant is on the line, has been the work we've been doing with veterans that need some financial or other kind of support right now in these difficult times. And I can see by the emails that we're having several each day. So I appreciate all the continued support from all the organizations that have continued to work with the veterans in need. So this is the agenda for the meeting. We wanted to take a look at the situation in Loudoun County, and in a minute or two I'll ask Tom to kind of comment on that and what he sees in the county and the program as he's running it now. After that, we're going to talk about 2021, believe it or not. You know, the executive committee serves for 1 year. It has the opportunity to extend service for 2 additional years. But we're looking to fill at least 1 vacancy. And we need to talk about that in a few minutes. Can I go to the next one? Thanks. We'll get an update from Ken James on the Communications Committee report and the program that he's looking at right now as a test program for the CVEB. We've got 2 guest speakers coming in tonight. Brenda Campbell, whose name I saw on there before, is one of them. And then Jennifer, oh, goodness gracious.
It'll be Jennifer Myers will be joining us as well. I
just noticed on the screen that Jennifer, I apologize, your last name doesn't show up. It just doesn't, at least on my screen.
No problem.
All right. And then we'll talk a little bit about what's happening from some of the other organizations in Loudoun County. So that's the program for the evening. We go on to the next. Tom, I think you're on an audio version.
I am, Jim. Can you hear me?
I do.
Okay.
Does everybody hear him?
Yes, we hear you, Tom.
Good. Okay. From a Loudoun County perspective, at least from my Loudoun County Services Coordinator, the throughput or the demand signal continues to be similar to what it has been in the past 4 months. That's about 2 or 3 veterans a day coming to me for varied assistance. You all see, most of you see the emails regarding the support requirements. And once again, thanks to all of our VSOs who, without exception, have met the demand and continue to support our veterans. Let's see, the Loudoun offices, we did go to 2 days a week. And yesterday I was informed that we were going back to totally at home work. So we're moving backwards a bit. I wasn't given any specific reason for it, so that's where we're at. Meeting rooms, currently the Dulles room is unavailable the 3rd Tuesday, which we have changed our schedule from the 2nd Tuesday to the 3rd Tuesday. So the Dulles room is unavailable for the next 2 CVEB meetings, which would be in October and December. And I'm going to be working with the staff to try to set it up for 2021 for the 3rd Tuesday of every other month, starting in February of 2021. And last but not least, the update on telemedicine. I think most of you have seen my emails regarding this. We were working with the District of Columbia Medical Center to set up a telemedicine capability here in Loudoun County. But after the COVID crisis hit, their mission focus is getting the medical center back up and running, and they have redistributed both hardware and financial support, which was earmarked to help our telemedicine effort. But really their focus right now is getting that hospital up and running. So we've kind of put that telemedicine with the DC Medical Center on a back burner. Anthony Barnes is on the line, and him and I have, for those of you who don't know him, he's the veterans officer who works for Congresswoman Wexton. We have discussed this, and we are going to, at least Anthony is going to once again approach the Martinsburg Medical Center to see if they're interested in supporting a telemedicine effort in Loudoun County. They had originally expressed an interest in it, but when we found out that in fact we're in the DC catchment area, they backed off and we ended up with the DC Medical Center. So there's some light, perhaps some light at the end of the tunnel on a telemedicine effort. And I think that covers the bases, Jim.
Shit. And I asked you a question, Tom. You mentioned that the county has now gone back to working at home. Are any of the offices at all having representation in the building during the day?
Yeah, at the Shenandoah building, the entry point for the social services or the family services departments is open. And it's open most of the normal business day. So there are people there who will take people as walk-ins. However, for the 6 or 8 days that I was working there, I saw maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people a day. So there's not a tremendous demand for it, because I think the telephone services have supplanted that walk-in capability.
And you mentioned that Martinsburg might be able to help telemedicine, but again, it's a question of jurisdiction.
Go ahead, Anthony.
Just to touch on that a minute. So as you're probably all aware, Martinsburg VA Medical Center has a new permanent director, Ken Allensworth, who used to be a assistant director there. So we're going to approach him. I've got a meeting scheduled with the Congresswoman next week. It's on the agenda to talk about, to try to put a little pressure on them. Their staff is 100% on board, which is slightly different than what we've experienced elsewhere. So now it's about getting upper management. They seem to be, I'm going to say less affected, but overall number-wise less affected than the DC Medical Center was by the pandemic. So I think we have a better opportunity to really utilize their services in our area.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if that does happen. I gather from what I've seen in various VA publications that there's a lot of use of telemedicine right now because of the difficulty in getting into physical meetings or appointments. And well, we'll see how that goes then. Thanks. Let's see, anything else to say? Tom, I was thinking about the rooms available for a meeting. We may have, we're trying to avoid competing for time with other organizations. And that's why we went to this third week of the month. Seemed like a good idea, but obviously we created a problem for ourselves if we were going to have a physical meeting. Of course, there's no indication right now that we'd have a physical meeting in October at all. Anthony, I don't know if you see anything like that, how things are going. You see any physical meetings at all in the area?
I personally haven't seen any physical meetings, except for some of the local VSOs are having in-person meetings. I know the American Legion in Middleburg is having in-person meetings. They're once a month meetings. As far as the problem with changing the dates, Jim, I think it was just a convergence of a couple of different, there was a convergence of a demand for the room on the county side when we changed the date. I don't think it's going to be a continuing issue for us. So I think once we try to set it up for 2021, we'll be okay.
That would be good. I'm sure one way or the other we'll have to adjust the date, make sure we have a room available in 2021.
Yeah, and we've got options. We can look at the Rust library. I know Christy had talked about that earlier.
Mhm. That's true. Okay. Anything else you want to add from the county's point of view?
Not that I can think of. I'm open for questions if anybody has any.
Anybody want to talk to Tom about it? No? Okay. Can we go to the next view graph then? I'd like to have Ken kind of report back a bit on what's happening with his group right now and some of the things that they're thinking about doing. Ken, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thanks. First of all, welcome to everybody who joined us this evening. Got a lot of new members who have signed in, so that's great. We're looking at some various options to try to figure out how we can best reach out to our veterans. One of those options is to explore a virtual job fair. And this would be coordinating with Loudoun County and really tying it into the efforts that Tom and others are taking here within the county to get our veterans hooked up with employers so we can get them a good job and get them moving forward. The COM group is going to take this on to look at what we feel like is a possible opportunity to do this in Veterans Day or tie it to some kind of an occasion where we can make this an annual event similar to what we were going to do with the VAC. But the idea is that we need to be reaching out to our veterans as much as we can and making sure that they know that we're here for them, that we're looking for ways that we can improve their lives as well as those of their families. So that's really what we're trying to do here. So we'll be reaching out to Tom, to you, and to others, to Mike, and looking for ways to make this something that's meaningful to everybody. So more to follow on this. I just wanted to bring this to everybody's attention tonight. And when I get done here, we can open it up and talk about any or all of these areas as folks deem are important. The next item on the list is I really need the help of the various VSOs that are on the line tonight. A lot of you are doing some great things. I know, 2001 is doing the honor flight, and I realize that COVID may have impacted that opportunity. I believe it was going to be in September. Richard, was it September or October we were going to do honor flight again, please?
Jim, this is Chuck. It was going to be in September. They have done away with all honor flights around the country as well, and that includes the top of the Virginia ones. That will be coming up in May, is what they're projecting for Loudoun County.
Okay, that's what I thought, Chuck. Just wanted to confirm. But the idea is that that's just an example. We've got a blood drive that we're conducting here at River Creek. There's a charity golf tournament that's taking place as well. Both those are being run by the River Creek Veterans Organization. But what I'm truly trying to let everybody know is that we have a web page, and we have an ability to help you get your programs advertised and let people, expand the broadcast network, if you will, for lack of a better term. Don Foreman, who is on the call tonight, has graciously volunteered to keep track of that page and keep it updated. So I want to ask all the VSOs to please take a look at what you're doing. And when you have a program that or an event that is coming up, let us know as soon as you can so we can get it on the web page and help you improve the outreach for your program. So the last item I had on here is Jim and I talked about reaching out across the tri-state area to get in touch with the other CVEBs and link our programs together so that we can share what we're doing, which may be of benefit to them. And likewise, we can gather information on their programs as well. So that's another effort where we as the communications group are going to try to reach out and expand our network, if you will, and our capabilities. So That's really the update from tonight. So I open it up to the group for any questions that you might have. Thanks very much, Jim.
I was going to ask Tom if he could comment a little bit about what he sees at the family service community in Loudoun County, where they got an opportunity to work with people looking for employment. Tom, do you see any veterans that are coming into that program at all?
In the Workforce Resource Center, there are veterans coming in all the time for the capabilities of the Workforce Resource Center, both from basic skills like interviewing and how to write a resume to attending days where they link the employers up who are looking for the people to hire, and vice versa. So yeah, the veterans are taking advantage of it. So I saw kind of a natural linkage with Ken's efforts to do a virtual job fair to link with the Loudoun County Workforce Resource Center, as in addition that the corporate gray guys who tend to, there's a bit of a division in the sense of levels of jobs. At the Workforce Resource Center, you're going to see everything from the $10 an hour job working at Denny's up and through the mid-range, and maybe some higher level paying jobs, professional jobs, whereas the corporate gray people are exactly the opposite, but tagged more towards the higher level professional jobs. So I saw kind of a natural symbiosis or intersection between the two of those to try to get across a broader spectrum for our veterans, knowing that we've got guys and gals that fit in across that whole range.
Okay, does the corporate gray, again, is a national program. Do you feel that the jobs that they're looking at are focused at all in Loudoun County, or is it more spread across multiple states?
No, they do it across the United States, but the ones they do here certainly don't focus on Loudoun County, but include Loudoun County. So I'd say it's really the ones they do here are really a Northern Virginia focus. So geographically, they probably run from north of the Rappahannock to, up through Baltimore, and then out west to the Shenandoah River kind of thing. So they capture a pretty good range across our area.
So the discussion we're looking at is a job fair, and the idea would be to kind of concentrate an effort to bring veterans in the county to the programs that exist here. Right now, how do the people here find out about it? Do they just have friends, or is there some publication from the county that gives them an idea that the service is available?
Well, it's from a distribution sense, it's a multifaceted. I mean, they do it online, they do it via newspapers, they do it via radio and television. I know corporate gray is across a broad spectrum of the media, publishing their job fairs, and especially nowadays with their virtual job fairs.
Okay. Ken, did you have any other questions for Tom at all on this?
There's also been a couple of things shared in the chat as well. So, and I don't know if Katie wants to speak to this or not, but there's a Loudoun event tomorrow. It's a Loudoun virtual job fair run by the Virginia Career Works with Loudoun Workforce Resource Center. Obviously not specifically focused on veterans. I don't know, Katie, do you want to speak to it a little bit more?
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, it's one of the ones listed up top, and I know Tom also mentioned this, but the Loudoun County Workforce Resource Center sent that. I linked it in here. It's an Eventbrite link, and it's a full day tomorrow, the 19th, with instructions in that link. Tons of different jobs. There's Amazon jobs, different groups in the private sector, and some with the county. It's worth taking a look if everyone can click on that link. And then there's some other information and contact information on there if someone has a specific question. But I think Tom made the point really well earlier about the difference between the two. We've also sent out the corporate gray stuff. It's a private entity, but just to make sure veterans know about that. But this one is for tomorrow, and that link, it's pretty self-explanatory, but if anyone needs any more details, I know Tom or I could get them over to you.
This is Richard. And that's great information. Is it possible, Tom, that you could beam that out to your big network, and then we in turn can send it out to our members?
Yeah, sure. Katie, have you sent it out? If you can, or if you haven't, can you send it to me and I'll just redistribute it?
Yep, I'll send it to you again, and I'll also post Supervisor. I just gotta try to get in the internet while I'm on this call, but post Supervisor Buffington's news flash that went over it today in addition to the sign up link. So I'll post that here and then also forward it to you, Tom.
Thank you, ma'am.
Fantastic. Tom, one quick question for you. Has your, you were trying to increase your email master distribution list to individuals as well as reps for organizations. Have you had many more people contact you to say, please put me on your list?
No, the bottom line up front is all of our efforts have resulted in 22 veterans identifying themselves to me. So
wow.
I'm at the point of diminishing returns in terms of efforts to try to reach out to our veterans. We've done enough in sense of telling them that we're here, and certainly they know I'm here. We've done just about everything we can from our end to encourage them to contact us or to participate or to get on a distribution list. And it's not, I think a lot of it just has to do with the demographics that we're dealing with. A lot of people have, like we've discussed a million times, they've got lives. They're doing not little league games nowadays, but they're out doing giant runs on the weekends and they've got lives. So we find people at varied stages of life. So
okay. Well, it's a good effort, Tom.
Thanks, Rich.
Yeah, it certainly is. Jim, I don't have any further questions, but Tom, I will be reaching out to you and to maybe get you to sit down with the comm group and we can lay out some plans and determine where we want to go, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure, Ken. I think the next step would be to link you up with some of the people from the Workforce Resource Center, and then also introduce you to Carl Savino, who's kind of the CEO over at Corporate Gray. And I'm just using Corporate Gray as a knowledge base. I'm not saying that we have to team with them or work with them, but they've been doing this for at least 30 years and they know the business. And for me personally, I don't know how to do a virtual job fair. So I just figured the most important thing was gathering the information up front, the best practices and that type of thing.
Well, given the population here in Loudoun County and the fact that we have a lot of retired veterans who are moving into this area, I think this is an area that would be of huge help to them and their families. So I look forward to getting with you, Tom, and meeting with these folks as well. So thank you very much.
And I think we have quite a few folks on the call that are in the employment space. I know Serena Bermudez is on the call as well. She's with the Virginia Employment Commission. Serena, I don't know I know you mentioned a couple of things in the chat about a previous event that you guys did. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Oh, you're on mute.
Here I am. I'm good now. Okay. Happy to be on this virtual meeting here with everyone. And yes, so on the 20th of July, we had our first hiring fair, and the platform was virtual premiere. And we had approximately 5,300 job seekers that came in. We had about 204 employers that we actually brought in. This was the whole entire Virginia, jobs from everywhere. And it was very successful. For example, we had one employer who went ahead and employed 7 individuals on the spot. So it was a very, very successful. It did take a lot of work, I will tell you. The day of the event, so I work for the Virginia Employment Commission on the veteran side, and the managers, and I guess it's probably about 12 of us. What we did is we got on a Google meeting, and we stayed in that platform for the whole entire event, and had a list of. We were able to, with virtual premiere, to go ahead and see who was coming in and out of the platform. We were able to see how many within the platform, each employer had a booth, they had a chat room, and we could see how many were coming in and out. Once the job seeker came into the employer's booth, their resume and information was already there, dropped in that they had did prior before. There was also another part of the booth where they were just interested. They didn't really want to talk to anyone. That information with their resumes that they had prior put in to the platform was already there. For example, we had FEMA. FEMA had approximately 500 interested individuals that left resumes that FEMA was able to go back afterwards and run through the resumes to see, including veterans, who would be a good fit for some of the positions. So it was a very successful and it was a very, I'm gonna say, this is the first one we've ever done virtually. This was the first time Virtual Premier has ever done one this big. The biggest one they've ever done was, they told us it was 2,000, and we hit 5,300. There was a little bit of slowness, so they had to come in and bring in extra servers on the IT side, but we were able to, if something was going on, we were able to talk with our employers right on hand. If the server was slow, hey, I'm in a booth, it's slow. Okay, stand by. Let's see what we can get with IT on the Virtual Premier side to be able to help and let them know what was going on. So it was I'm gonna say it was definitely an all hands on deck to do something that big. We really pushed it to the edge with 5,300 job seekers that came on. So it definitely was a teaching, and it was good. It was really good.
Thanks, Serena. And I know Serena's involved with a lot of different veteran employment just initiatives across the state. So she would be a great resource, in terms of this initiative. And I know Anthony Barnes, with your job fairs that you've done in Loudoun County, there's just so many people on here that have knowledge in that space. I'm sure there's a lot of people that could come together, maybe in a smaller committee or something to formulate this and make it happen.
Right. I guess, a major thing was the advertising. You have to be able to push the advertising hard. News releases, press releases, to keep it going, to make sure that everybody is knowing about what's going on. I think we were the biggest one that's ever been done for any platform. It's never been that high with job seekers and coming in.
Well, thank you very much for that information.
Oh, you're welcome.
Was there someone that wanted to talk about corporate gray? Did I see that come up on the screen?
I can talk just from my own personal experiences. I retired from the Navy about 5 years ago, and I've had to meet a couple of times with Carl Savino, and those are usually, I haven't done a virtual event yet. I have a job at the moment, but basically his events tend to be on cozier, in the sense of not a huge, humongous, sprawling event. So, and I had approached him myself because I've been working with DivBIC, Defensive Veterans Brain Injury Center, for the last 3 years, and kind of broached the idea of just bringing resources, non-job resources to the fair, and he'd been open to that concept. And I would imagine, a virtual option with no physical space limitations, I think might be something for, those of us with resources to approach. I will say for myself, I also did participate in Maryland's job fair August 4th, and it wasn't completely set up right for resources. You basically had to sort of put yourself in as a quote unquote job. And then what you could do is for the job section on the virtual booth, I put in the different testimonials and stories that we have about TBI. And so what was kind of neat, as was kind of mentioned earlier at the end, is that you could go in and see for the anyone who came to your booth, you could see exactly what they were looking at. So if you set up each quote unquote job as a different resource, you could see, oh, hey, everybody looked at all the resources. People looked at like 1 or 2 resources. What was the most popular? So, so it was modest. I mean, they probably had at least, gosh, I think almost 30 resources, and they had about 70 or 80 different people giving, job opportunities. And they had each of those broken down by different categories. So, construction or retail or whatever else like that. So that was kind of interesting. That was my first experience dealing with a virtual job fair. And I have to say, it presents an opportunity for those of us with resources to kind of join in on that, because that's where people are going.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Linda, did you raise your hand?
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Terrific. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Greetings from Frederick County. I have a question for the folks that are doing the virtual job fairs. And I apologize if I missed this discussion in terms of how good of a match is there between the people who are looking for positions and the positions that are being offered, and how successful are the people in actually finding jobs? You mentioned they were able to hire 8 people right on the spot. Maybe you could just talk about it, because I think if we could share with our own workforce development staff in Frederick County that these are very successful, they're not just people going online and in fact they are finding jobs, I think it would be easier for us to sell that as an activity.
So this is Serena again. So what I will say is that when we had ours, we focused on employers that had jobs that were ready to go. We did not seek out the employers that were just kind of looking and wanting to be in a part of a job fair. So that was very important to us, to make sure that there were actual jobs, and within the platform, they were able to put in job orders. So there was actual jobs that these job seekers were actually looking at and applying to within. So I think that's pretty important too, to make sure. There are some employers that just want to be at a job fair. And that's why we also made sure and said that it was a hiring fair, because there was actual jobs there. There were actual job orders that were in the system on the platform that you could actually see the job descriptions of what the jobs were and everything that it entailed. So I think that's pretty important.
This is Mike Turner. Sorry I joined late, guys, but this is a good conversation. I just left Military Officers Association, and MOA has 4 virtual job fairs a year. They've been doing this for years. They really have it down to a science. The one missing link in all job fairs is how you close the loop on the back end of how successful they were in getting hired. That's a very, very difficult metric, because they get hired and then they forget that they got it at the job fair. And so trying to get them to respond is really difficult, both employers and candidates. One of the things that MOA did, and I don't know the modalities, Jim, you might want to call Jim Carmen at MOA and ask one of his staff, but we would charge for the virtual job fair unless you agreed to fill out a survey and allow us to contact you 6 months later to find out if you got hired by that company. And we didn't let the employers in unless they agreed to give us feedback if candidates were hired downstream. That was somewhat successful. So it increased our feedback loop and our metric, but it's still very difficult 6 months downstream to be able to prove, to link the job fair outcomes. You can get the outputs, how many resumes, how many interviews, those sorts of things, but getting the long-term outcomes is really difficult.
So what I will say, this is Serena again. So working with the Virginia Employment Commission with the Job for Veterans State Grant, this is actually what we do. So when we put together the hiring fair, it had to be employers that we built a relationship with. The reason for that is when the job fair is all done and over with, we have that relationship. So I'm working with them after the fact. Hey, how many resumes did you get? Actually, how many veterans did you employ? So we just don't kind of leave it out there. we want that data. We want to make sure that veterans are being hired. So that's important for exactly what you're doing to kind of build that relationship with the employer in order to have a successful event.
That's really helpful. Thank you very much. The other question is, when you're doing the hiring fairs, do you ever include resources around entrepreneurship, starting one's own business, franchising? Or is that mixing too much? Is that confusing the issue with your intent to work with employers you know have jobs and are ready to hire and with whom you have relationships?
So we focused on the hiring. We didn't bring any resources in. We focused on the employers, and we brought in employers in the IT realm. We brought employers in the hospitality, in the healthcare. I mean, we tried to take from every group of employers that we had relationships with to be able to bring them all together. We wanted this to be successful, and we're still tracking it. And throughout Virginia, we had the Job for Veterans State Grants is broken up into 3 regions: the East, the West, and the North. And each region had a responsibility to bring in a certain amount of employers that you have relationships with. So we're able to track now how many came in, how many job seekers, and how many jobs. The one I was telling you about pertaining to the 7 that got hired on the spot, that was one of my employers. That after the fact, I went ahead and was able to contact them, and they were like, "This was great. I just want to tell you, we hired 7 on the spot." I said, "Oh, okay, give me names. Let me know who that was."
Oh, very useful information. I appreciate that very much.
You're welcome.
And it gives us a direction in which we can send Ken and his team.
And I think there's also opportunity. The other side of virtual interviewing and virtual job fairs is making sure that the veterans are prepared for them. So there is definitely an opportunity that we can work with some of the organizations to do webinars leading up to this job fair, where they help people get their resume ready, help them understand how to do virtual job fairs, how to have statements prepared and things like that. So we have organizations that already do those webinars. So we could make sure to promote those heavily to Loudoun County veterans before those events. So just things to think about as you're, putting this together. There is more opportunity to really expand and have a partnership with the CVEB, with these organizations, and help to promote those avenues as people get prepared for the job fair.
Thanks, Christy. I think I saw a note that Mike King had something he wanted to add.
No, sir. It's just putting out my contact info and a little bit about what we do. Thank you.
Okay.
That's all I had, Jim. Thanks.
Mike.
And thanks for everybody's comments and input. This is huge. So once we get the recording, I've got a lot of information here that I've taken down, and we'll be getting in contact with folks to put together a smaller group that we can really start working hard on figuring out how we're going to lay this in. Thanks.
Okay. Christy, you have a note that we had 2 guest speakers tonight, and you wanted to introduce the first one.
Yes. So our first speaker is going to be Brenda Campbell, and she is with In Transition, which is part of the Psychological Health Center for Excellence, which is an agency through the Department, the Defense Health Agency, the DHA. Hold on, let me check my text message real quick from Brenda, make sure she's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Are you there? Okay. All right, Brenda, let me make sure that I have screen share for you. So stop sharing my screen. All right, you should be able to share yours.
Okay. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking to you about our In Transition program. As Christy said, it's part of the Defense Health Agency, and under that, we are the Psychological Health Center of Excellence. My obligatory disclosure, The views expressed in this presentation are mine and do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of the Psychological Health Center of Excellence, Defense Health Agency, Department of Defense, or the United States government, and I have no conflicts of interest to share. So let me just kind of skip over a few slides here, if I can get it to move. There you go. Okay. So the goal here is really to help you understand and come away knowing that the In Transition program is able to connect service members or veterans with psychological health care providers. So the primary objective is really to decrease the service members' barrier to care, which, as you all know, can oftentimes lead to disengagement, especially during a transition. And we know that service members go through a lot of transitions during their careers. And certainly when they transition out of the military, it is a very difficult and challenging time. So what the coaches do is they work with the veterans to transition them to and in between all healthcare systems. So whether it's VA, vet centers, private insurers, community resources, that's what they're there to do. And this isn't meant to be a telephonic counseling service. It really is coaching the service member or veteran to get them to the appropriate level of psychological health care that they need. I love this program because there really are, as you can see, no barriers to accessing these coaching services. It's free, it's voluntary, it's confidential, it's available 24/7, CONUS and OCONUS, and it's available to virtually all service members. So whether it's active duty, National Guard, reservist, regardless of era, regardless of discharge status or time in service, it's available to them. And there are no limits to the number of times this can be used. So somebody maybe came off a rough deployment 2 years ago and wanted to use psychological health, and now they're transitioning out of the military and they want some help again. So they can use the services as many times as they'd like. So I'll go through the steps of the service flow process. And the first is sort of the initial contact. So there are 4 ways that this can happen. First is a self-referral, so you can have veterans call directly themselves and get connected with a coach. If you are a community resource or referral, you can connect them, you can call with them, however you'd like to, especially if you've already built up some rapport with them. That's a great idea. If you're a mental health provider, you can also call with them, which is, again, great because it gives us a little more information without the veteran having to retell their story. And then the last way is mandated, and that's a little bit of a misnomer, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about it, but essentially, there was a congressional mandate which provides a list to In Transition of service members who within a year of separating from the military have had some psychological health services. And so what we're doing is during that very difficult transition, oftentimes, we reach out to them and say, if you're interested in us helping you transition to psychological health now that you're leaving the military, then that's a way we can reach out to them and offer them that service. So really the initial contact is just that. We're getting their name and so contact information. Maybe you're providing it to us, maybe they're calling to set that up, and then we'll take it from there. The second step is either declining or accepting the service. So as I had said, anybody who's separated, we may be calling them, but this is absolutely voluntary. So they may say, nope, I'm good to go, I don't need the services. But if they do accept the services, then we will go ahead and set up the coaching services for them. So they'll be meeting with the coach, same coach. They'll set up a time to meet, generally weekly, but it really can depend on what works for the veteran. And then they begin the coaching sessions. The coaches are great. They are all licensed master level mental health providers, and they're also trained in motivational interviewing and military culture. Many of them have been with the program for a long time because they just value the program so much and they love the work that they do. The coaches are going to take a look at the whole veteran. They're not just looking for them to get psychological health. They are also looking to get them connected with any number of other resources that they may need. They've got a huge database of vetted resources. These are just some of the top, as we've been talking about, this is no surprise, this list, this is the top 6 resources that are requested. Assistance with disability claims, financial, employment resources, educational resources, resources for service dogs, and then educational resources regarding behavioral health care issues. And then the last step in the process is really to sort of close that loop. So the coach is working with the veteran. They've connected them with a provider. They've seen the provider once and they're saying, yep, this is a good fit. That's great. They also have any other resources that they need, and then they will sort of terminate that relationship. They can always come back at any time and re-engage if they need to re-engage. I won't bore you, especially this late in the evening, with doties and D-happies, but suffice it to say, as I had mentioned earlier, this was really put in place so that members separating from the military who have psychological health care in their last year will automatically be enrolled in this program. And by being enrolled, it means that we have gotten their name. Something has triggered their name getting to us. And generally speaking, it's because it's in the record somewhere that they've received help. All we're doing is reaching out to them to say, yes, we want the services, or, you know, do you want the services? And they'll say yes or no. And then that's it. It's not like we call them and keep harassing them or anything like that. And this is a way that you can connect with us, again, 24/7, 365. In addition, we have the Psychological Health Resource Center. And that's something that can be used by anyone, not just the veteran, as with the coaching services, and they are also available 24/7. As we all know, everybody's doing things virtually. We generally go out to resource fairs, job fairs, we go to yellow ribbon events and all of that. So we're happy to do this virtually if any of your groups would like information about it. We also have brochures and wallet cards that we can send you so that if you are doing some things in person, you can have some of these materials available as well. My contact information is down at the bottom, and here are the ways to get to us by email, web, or our Facebook page. Just mention a couple other programs that are part of Psychological Health Center of Excellence. The first is the Real Warriors campaign, and maybe some of you have heard of this. This is a multimedia anti-stigma campaign that links veterans and their families with help-seeking resources. And then our clinical care team creates clinical support tools. These are evidence-based materials to help educate both mental health providers as well as veterans and their families about mental health conditions such as PTSD, depression, substance misuse, suicide prevention, that kind of thing. So that is what I have. Please let me know if you have any questions.
I'll pause for a second and see if there's any questions, but I do want to say thank you, Brenda. I think this is really important resource to know about. We know that, especially right now, a lot of individuals are struggling with mental health, struggling with employment, struggling with, you know, potential concern about eviction or emergency financial assistance. And so when people get into that state of crisis, mental health can fall, your mental health can fall to worse extremes. And so,
Absolutely.
and I think it's really important to recognize that we know that veterans have a lot of stigma associated with mental health. So having someone that can coach them into care, coach them into a resource, coach them into a service is so important. And a great resource that, you know, all veterans can use, transitioning service members and more. So highly recommend spreading the word on this to let more people know about it. And I appreciate Brenda for being here, but again, I'll pause and see if there's any other questions or comments.
Okay, I had one quick question. This seems to be your organization directly to the individual that's looking for some support. So you do not interact with other organizations per se. There's a privacy issue, I guess, that says that you don't, for example, work with a veterans group here in the county.
Oh, no, so we use resources all over the place. Yes, we can definitely interface. Our coaches work directly with the individuals, but our organization partners with resources all over the country.
Yeah, I did. You did mention that you would sometimes be present at something like a job fair as an organization that would be there for somebody that was participating in the job fair. They could identify the fact that your resource was available if they needed it. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. So we want to reach out to anybody that's reaching out to veterans, and then we also want to reach out to veterans directly. So we do that both ways.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for that information.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for the time.
Awesome. And if you can end sharing your screen, perfect. Our next guest speaker is going to be Jennifer Myers, and we'll also have a little bit of words from Richard Lane, who's part of Legal Services of Northern Virginia. But Jennifer, you should be able to share your screen if you're able to.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I wanted to let you know I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. It's just me with them tonight. I thought I was going to have a caregiver. So fair warning if you hear some screaming in the background, but right now they're calm. So we will see how it goes at bedtime. But I just wanted to give you a heads up. But thank you so much for having me today. And here. Okay. All right. So I'm going to be talking, so I'm with Freddie Mac, and I've been at Freddie Mac for about 4 years, but prior to joining Freddie Mac, I actually am an elder law attorney, and I worked in assisted living. My family owns assisted living facilities. So I have worked in the elder care space throughout my entire life. I mean, even when I was young, I was helping with some of the residents within our family's facilities. And when I started practicing elder law, we have nonprofit assisted living facilities. So through our nonprofit, I would see a lot of people who are low income, a lot of veterans, and I became very familiar with veterans pension. Also, a lot of people in the elder care community do refer to it as aid in attendance. And I know there's probably a lot of people on the phone here that have heard of the aid in attendance program, veterans pension. But when I joined legal team at Freddie a few months ago, we have a very robust, wonderful pro bono program, but I realized that we do not have any programs aimed at veterans. And I let them know that for the past 7 years, I try to do about 5 to 10 of these applications for veterans a month pro bono. When I left elder law, I still was getting a lot of calls, and there were so many people I knew that could handle these benefits. There are all the VSOs, but sometimes you guys are so overwhelmed. So I just kept doing these claims. And so I asked Freddie, we don't have any veterans programs. Can we start a program? I'll train our staff how to fill out these applications, how to assist these clients. And they were so willing and jumped right in. So I'm really excited to share about it. And today, what I'm going to do is just go over the basic eligibility requirements for veterans pension, and then what we'll be doing at Freddie Mac as well. So this is a flyer that we've made recently. Christy will be sending it out. This is what we're sharing a lot with our local hospital social workers, assisted living facilities, anyone in the veteran community. So for this program, I would say the typical client that I see is somebody who's maybe mid-80s, about to enter assisted living and needs help paying for care, because this is a non-service connected disability. So let me go into our PowerPoint. Okay, so for those who are not familiar, the VA pension is a tax-free benefit for low-income wartime veterans. They did have to serve during a wartime period, and they have to be totally and permanently disabled, but they automatically hit that criteria at the age of 65. Their disability is not service connected. And then often, even though it is the VA pension program, and aid in attendance is an additional allowance on another program the VA offers, in assisted living, elder care community, often people just say, oh, you probably qualify for aid and attendance. So really what we're looking at is this aid and attendance benefit. The eligibility, they had to be either that wartime veteran or the surviving spouse. There are financial limits that'll go into, and then for the aid and attendance piece, there's a medical need. The maximum amount that the VA will pay out is $1911 for a single veteran. I frequently work with surviving spouse of a veteran, and those are paid out a maximum of $1228 per month. And then a married veteran can get $2266 and $1500 for a married veteran if they do not need any care. So for that service requirement, it's wartime veterans. They have served 90 consecutive days of active duty, and 1 day had to fall during a wartime period. I only put on here the wartime periods that we are working with because we are looking for those senior citizen veterans. So World War II, Korean conflict, and the Vietnam era. Their discharge had to be under conditions other than dishonorable. Like I said, I often work with a surviving spouse. So for the spouse, they had to be married to the veteran at the time of the veteran's death, and they didn't get remarried. I get calls frequently, excuse me, from people who say, oh, my dad was a veteran, my mom needs to go into an assisted living, but she remarried, and I heard I don't qualify. Well, then we look into her second marriage. Who was the person who she was married to? And in this generation, even her second marriage often was to a veteran. So it's just the last marriage for this surviving spouse that had to be a veteran. Medical need. To get that extra aid and attendance allowance, you need help from another person on a daily basis. If somebody is moving into assisted living, then they often do need that help on a daily basis. Oh, first interruption, sorry. Hold on 1 second, Lily. Okay, thank you, okay. I'm so sorry. So medical need, they have to have help from another person on a daily basis. If you're in assisted living, you need that help, that's why you're there. But things like bathing, dressing, making meals, those are the types of activities of daily living that we're looking to. When applying for this program, you don't need to be in assisted living. Somebody could get those services at home, even in independent living facilities, which is a little bit new. You can still potentially qualify for this program. Also, if you're in a nursing home or blind, that also would meet that regular aid and attendance medical need requirement. So it is a financial-based program. The benefits are based on what the VA defines as countable income, and I'm going to go into that in a little bit of detail. Countable income is essentially your gross income less these VA-defined allowable deductions. That's about 5% off of the formula, but I'm not going to, it can be too complex, so that's close enough. But often, so what is your gross income? And then you subtract out those monthly reoccurring expenses from medical, health insurance, a cost of a caregiver, an assisted living, a burial expenses, and then independent living facilities. So if somebody is living in a senior housing, but they don't have continuous care, they still might qualify as that might be an allowable deduction. This here, one of the benefits that I found over the years of doing these and helping the veteran community is I'm familiar with some of the questions that the VA is going to ask that unfortunately is not in the application. So this is just one of the benefits of working with the attorneys at Freddie Mac through a pro bono program. This is something I made many years ago that answers questions that the VA often comes back and slows down the process that they want to find out. How much are you paying on a monthly basis? When did the services begin for the facility? That is not covered on their basic application, and that is frequently something that they come back and ask. And then just to make it clear that the facility would qualify as a medical expense deduction, these are some questions that I've generated based specifically on the VA regulations and their rules, and just check boxes to make it easy for the person processing this application to understand this medical expense qualifies. And then after we figure out what are those qualifying medical expenses, this is how we are looking at what is your income. So typical people I see, they usually have a small Social Security and retirement. Here's a sample. This person has $4,000 a month of income. Right now, Medicare is $144, prescription plan, a supplemental insurance, and assisted living, and $4,500 is actually, unfortunately, pretty low. Assisted living is an out-of-pocket expense. It is not something that is covered by insurance, so it is all private pay. So for this veteran here, he's paying about $4,900 a month in medical expenses. So countable income is at $4,000, less his medical expenses, $925. Negative $925 is how much would be countable income. Since unfortunately he's in the hole each month, the VA would say 0. So income, he actually has 0 countable income. So this is a very low income veteran. Even though this person earns $4,000 a month, they're very low income. Same situation, but this time I put that he's at home. If you are still living at home, getting somebody coming in, a caregiver, you could spend around $2,500 a month. So again, with our countable income, we take that $4,000, and since he's spending $25 instead of $45 on home health care, it's the difference here. So this time, John's countable income is $1,075 a month. So the reason we want to figure out what is somebody's income, what is the VA going to count, is because what they're going to pay him is the maximum award less whatever that income is that we just calculated. So when he was in assisted living and was in the hole each month, the income we're counting is 0. He's going to get that full monthly award from the VA. In that home health scenario, when what was left over, accountable income, was $1,075, the VA would pay the difference between the maximum $1,911 minus that $1,075 and give him $836 a month. So my goal when helping people apply and talking to them about the benefit is to see how can we reduce their income to 0. Maybe they don't have the expenses yet, but they're about to move into a facility. What are the cost of facilities? Are they paying any other medical expenses? Because I've seen in the past, unfortunately, people apply, not report the correct medical expenses, or not report the expenses correctly by not informing the VA properly of some of the information about the assisted living facility. And then it looks like they have $4,000 a month of income. So that's one of the benefits of working with an attorney, just like working also with one of the VSOs. Also, there is that financial limitation when it comes to net worth. There is a defined bright line net worth limit. It's $129,094. With that $129,000, they're not counting someone's car. They're not counting a primary residence home. They do count, though, 1 year of your countable income in net worth. That is just part of the rules. So if, for example, when we said John was earning $1,075 a month, that was what we were going to count as his income. They take that, make it times 12. 12,900 is his annual countable income. So he can't exceed 116,000 in the bank in his remaining net worth, because that 12,900 plus 116 is what gets us up here to that bright line, 129,000. There is a look back with this program because the rules for this were not made until October 18th, 2018. It is a 3-year look back, but they grandfather in any transfers before that. So if somebody made a transfer prior to that date within the past 3 years, that is not going to affect their eligibility. So that's kind of overview. I think that was a lot of information, but if we are going to be, let me go back to our flyer here, directing if there is anybody you think might be eligible, interested, thinking maybe in the future they will be needing home care or assisted living, please direct them to Legal Services of Northern Virginia. and their information's on here, and I'll let Richard go into that in a minute. And they'll be sending them over to our attorneys who are VA accredited attorneys at Freddie Mac, and we're going to help people apply for this benefit program. Any questions?
Hey, Jennifer, it's Richard. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I wanted to get into the contact information before we go to questions.
Yep.
You have there, it's veteranslaw@lsnv.org, and my phone number is 703-778-4809. I would like to stress that even if you think someone might need this service in the future, that would be a good time to start looking into it. As I can't remember if you mentioned it this time, Jennifer, but quite often Jennifer finds herself working with the children of the veteran or their surviving spouse, so they may not know anything about their military experience or whatever beyond the stories they heard. So the quicker we can gather all the information, the better.
And and that would be also, as you are sharing this within your network, for anybody on this call today, it's often is the children who are calling me, and those are the ones who I'm working with. And there are forms that we need to prove their marriage. So if they're not quite ready, it's great for me to still talk to them or any of our other attorneys, so we can let them know, do you know where your mom and dad marriage certificate is from 1950s? No, well, let's start tracking that down.
Yeah, and if I could, Jennifer, I had 3 questions actually. One, you were talking about the independent living facility. So if I understood correctly before, and if I'm wrong, please let me know, that a lot of it had to do with, like, if you're in a senior living facility where there are no stairs and everything like that, as long as your doctor is willing to say it's medically necessary, that may be a deductible expense. Is that correct?
So if you are in one within an independent living community and you need to be there for a medical reason, the doctor documents that, then that sometimes can be something that's deductible. So if you have to be there and you are contracting for care, somebody's coming in, even if it's a third party, then you can write off as a deductible expense from that income the payments just for your lodging, just for your rent at that facility.
Yeah. And then the other one would be, what about if you had an agreement with a family member to pay them to be the caregiver? Would that be a deductible expense?
Yes. So I'm licensed in Maryland. So often I see people who have a child now that is taking care of their parent full time, and they are no longer working because of it. And we can pay that child for care. And the only issue that does come up, and I warn people, especially because I don't know the laws in Virginia as well, I'm not barred in Virginia, is there's Medicaid implications. So a lot of these people, we eventually might need to get Medicaid benefits within a nursing home setting, and Medicaid could penalize those payments to caregivers that are family members. What I do is I set up a Medicaid compliant contract. But outside of the Medicaid implications that I warn people about, for the VA purposes, solely for this benefit, it's completely acceptable to pay a family member for care.
Okay, and my third question was about Medicaid. So thank you very much, Jennifer. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Any other questions for Jennifer or Richard, in terms of connecting our Loudoun County veterans to this resource?
I do, actually. Jennifer, this is Anthony Barnes from Congressman Wexton's office. When you're submitting or you're assisting the veterans with filling out their forms, are you submitting them as well?
Yes.
Directly to the VA?
I do. So because I'm not a VSO, I actually can't submit anything electronically for pension claims. So I fax and mail the application. Right now, I'd say even with sending them in, mailing them in, typically the VA is approving these benefits in 3 to 6 months.
Yep.
And actually, since COVID, it's been very strange. I would think that might have some delays, but I've had multiple applications in the past 2 months time frame that have been improved in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, the explanation I got from the Pension Management Center in Philadelphia on that is there has been a lot less individuals going into nursing homes nationwide. There's been kind of a hiatus put on that. But I wanted to offer my services to yourself, but also anybody in the district. When you're submitting these application forms, if you're running into issues or if something needs to be done expeditiously due to health needs or whatever, feel free to contact me in my office. I can submit directly to the Pension Management Center electronically through our congressional liaisons, and usually get things pushed through relatively quickly, particularly if it is a extenuating circumstance. So happy to work with the VSOs. I think they all know that, but having never spoken to you before, I'd like to offer that as well.
Thank you. And I do use our local congressional offices when necessary, and then the various hardship flags at the VA, but I appreciate it.
Jennifer, this is Richard.
Yes.
I have a question. Are these payments made to the veteran for him then to pay the service provider, or are they paid directly to a service provider?
These are paid to the veteran. They're directly deposited into their checking account, just like Social Security. There is no requirement what they have to use the benefit for. For them to qualify for it, we need to be low income. And often the reason that we have that medical expense coming in is that's how people become low income. A lot of the veterans might not have a lot of income, but $3,000–4,000 a month. And so they're not low income until we can deduct something from it. But the money is just deposited directly into their checking account as if it was any other income source.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Jennifer, this is Serena. What's the success rate of getting this ANA for the veteran?
I think I've been denied once, and it was from one small nuance. But it's because for my purposes, I'm very familiar with all the nuances of the regulations. So when I am talking to people from the beginning, I'm aware if they're going to qualify. When somebody's been denied, I've had one person who they forgot to tell me about an income source, and it was on a checking account that they forgot about. And so the VA, when they were verifying, looked at IRS records and could tell somebody had more income. So, but outside of that, as long as, and people are upfront about their income, that was just somebody did not know their mom who had dementia, all of her finances. But when we talk to people and get all the information from the beginning and ensure that they are eligible, I haven't had anybody be declined.
Okay, great.
Now, it's very black and white, unlike some of the other programs. You can report what you have financially on paper. Even for the medical piece of this, it's as long as they need help with 2 activities of daily living, you meet that requirement. Or if you have dementia, a cognitive impairment, and you need supervision daily, you meet that requirement. So it's very easy to show the medical.
Okay. And do you charge a fee for this?
So you cannot charge fees to help. So no. And this is a pro bono program we're doing through Freddie Mac and Legal Services of Northern Virginia. So we definitely are not. You're not allowed to charge any fees to help people file their initial claims with the VA. I do see some organizations getting around that. There are some financial planning type of companies that say, hey, we'll sell you this annuity or other financial planning services, and we're going to throw in for free doing your aid and attendance application. So you do see that sometimes come up.
Yeah, and just for the record, LSNV never charges for any of our services. There are occasions where one of our clients has to pay like a court filing fee or something like that, which don't apply to the VA, but no, we never charge for any of our services either.
And for this, the only fees that I ever pay out of pocket are just the overnighting fees to send my applications to the VA, and Freddie Mac is going to be covering those fees.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Jennifer. This is Don Foreman. I was wondering, do you know if there's a program like this out in Arizona?
So VSOs can help people apply for this as well. This is a national program. This is just for our purposes. When I saw at Freddie that we were not doing anything for the veteran community and they have been looking for something, and this is a program I just know very well, and so I said, I'll train our attorneys. We have these attorneys here who want to do pro bono work. We have these resources available, but it is a just program that is available through the VA, and anybody could assist, and most VSOs are familiar with the application process.
All right, good, thank you.
Or maybe not most, but many, if you are in Arizona and looking around at your local.
No, I have twin brothers out there that are both Korean veterans, and they're one is already in a home, and the other is on home care. So.
And if you want, you can feel free to reach out if you have any questions for me as well about it. It could be something that you might be able to just assist them with the application, and I can assist you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. We appreciate that.
Let me put my information. I'm going to stop sharing and I'll put my information in. How do I stop? Oh, there. In the chat, I will add it if you have any questions. But then if you have anybody you think would be interested through Legal Services of Northern Virginia, Richard's information is on the flyer we will be sharing.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Again, thank you very much.
I would just like to remind everyone that this is for non-service connected veterans. The service connected veteran, it's a little bit different process.
And also the VA pays the higher of the program that you're eligible for. So some people who are receiving service connected disability, but at a 10% rating maybe, could qualify for pension and receive pension instead because it would pay out higher.
Okay. Is there anybody else from our organizations that had something that we wanted to bring up at this time?
I do have one thing that I'll jump in really quick. Serving Together is going to be working with the Loudoun Workforce Resource Center to have a webinar on September 2nd that will talk about serving together, connecting veterans to resources and things like that. So as soon as I have the link and information, I'll be sure to share that out. And then one other thing, well, actually two more things. We have our upcoming in progress or in practice review on September 1st. It's going to highlight data and information and things that we've done over the past 2 years in connection with your organizations, and celebrate successes and highlight speakers from various different topics. We're going to talk about top needs in the community, top things that we're seeing in terms of COVID and more, and how it's impacting veterans. So I'll be sure to share out the invitation for that as well in the follow-up notes. And then the last thing, our Serving Together Director, AMSA, is being promoted to our Chief Program or Chief Development Officer at EveryMind. So we'll be hiring for a Serving Together Director. So if anybody is interested or knows people that are looking for employment, we'll have a great opportunity at Serving Together as a director available that I think it just posted today. So I'll be sure to share that link as well. But that's all I have.
Thanks, Christy.
Jim, I might have one to share. I like to share good news stories. And the good news story this month is that we had a veteran that we collectively supported with VSOs who had an injury problem to a foot and had surgery like back in the beginning of 2019. And he couldn't work for like 6 months prior to that. And unfortunately, the surgery did not turn out well, and he couldn't return to work. Meanwhile, he had a kind of a tough divorce, I guess, and was staying with friends or, in small little rooms and really didn't have much. So he came to our attention again collectively through Tom Grant. And he had gotten recommendations from several different foot doctors that the best thing for him going forward, he's about 53 years old, was to have his foot amputated. So that happened last November. So he had to spend some time up at Martinsburg for rehab, came out of that, and was living with a fellow post member, actually in his family, as he was getting squared away. And we found out, I think it was through Tom, that there's an apartment complex in Kincora that has set aside apartments for veterans. So we got in touch with them, and they said, well, we would love to have him come over here and occupy at a reasonable price a single bedroom apartment on the first floor. So we got him moved into there, and in conjunction with that, Tom put us in touch with the Elks Club of Sterling, and those people have a veterans outreach program, which I didn't know about, that they provide furniture and furnishings to veterans that need help. So Saturday a week ago, they showed up over to his apartment. They unloaded dressers, drawers, lamps, chairs, dishes, silverware to get him up and going. And he is just delighted to be in his own place for the first time, I think, in 3 years. And he's working very hard to get back on his feet. So that's this month's good news story.
Thank you, Richard.
Roger.
This is Stephanie Burns from the Red Cross. I put into the chat about the Red Cross continuing its virtual resiliency stress management module. And we have 2 coming up. One of them is on Thursday and one of them is next Tuesday. So I put the Eventbrite links onto the chat, and I'm going to be sending the information also to Don and Harold to put up on the web. And Christy, thank you for sending that out with Chris's information. And then we'll have more information for the September ones that are going to be coming out with the new communication, stress management, and communicating with children modules as well. That's all for me.
Thank you. Chris? Okay. Just a reminder that the next meeting we have scheduled is going to be in October. It's an annual meeting for us. Just to remind everybody, we have an executive committee of 4. The president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. And there is an option for the executive committee to continue for an additional year. And we are looking forward to that. The majority of us are going to be able to do that. But we are going to lose the full-time services of our secretarial support, which is Christy, not 100%, but some percent. So we are looking to try to find someone who might be able to help us out in organizing the meetings and helping to conduct the meetings. And Christy's done a tremendous job with that. In any case, we are looking to open the opportunities for anybody that wants to work with the executive committee in any capacity, for that matter, to contact me personally or Tom Grant, who is acting as our nomination chief. So we're going to try to take care of that here in the next several weeks.
And just to add on to that, I'm not going anywhere. I just have a couple of extra responsibilities that are being put on me right now. And so I need to step back a little bit. I still want to be a part of the meetings, still plan to be, the back end, but having some support for, the secretarial duties, managing the rosters, the meeting notes and things like that would be what that responsibility would be. And you have a little bit more, obviously, engagement and activity with the executive committee. So also want to give other people opportunity to have some say and ability within the Loudoun CVEB. So still going to be around, not going anywhere. Just need to take a few things off my plate a little bit.
Okay, Christy. You know, I was thinking as we get near the end of this meeting that somehow or other with a virtual meeting, you always wonder what's going to happen. I think this was a very fruitful meeting. And I really, really enjoyed the opportunity to talk about the virtual job fair. We've learned a lot from the different people speaking, and we can see an opportunity for our group to do some good work here in the next few months on this program. So we look forward to Ken recovering from all that information and talking to him a little bit later. So again, if there's nothing further, I think we'll close the meeting. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Stay well.
Okay.